They call it the Big Easy, but Sunday's game was anything but. With Jaden Daniels leading the way, the Commanders win a nail-biter in New Orleans.
My second time playing in the Dome. It was my first winning here. My first ever game at LSU was here on a Sunday. Lost by 1 point, so it felt good to win by 1 point.
What to make of Sunday's win over the Saints and getting focused on Philly on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
What's up?
Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. But before we get started, we must thank the coach in New Orleans for that win. He made it very clear that he wanted us in the playoffs. He went for 2, so we see a light now. But what we're going to do in our mission, if we accept it on this show, is find out which in the next hour, is that light daylight, or is that a train coming down the tunnel? So what do? You go and bring in your best investigators. We got Donna always. She's out there in the locker room. We brought the big fella in. It's Big Solomon, my son. He seems to know what's happening there. But then we go out and we get international love. We bring David. Oh, just I tell you, game fans, you probably thinking, he used to be on the show all the time. And he's not on it now. My money's too small right now, but he came back for this time. So. But I'm going to tell you what, let's get started, guys. What was that coach thinking about? I guess because maybe their season was gone, that he would go for 2 down. I mean, what's up?
Hey, Tony, you know what? His season isn't gone because they still have a possibility of trying to get into the playoffs. But he was going for the win, Tony. I guess he thought that, you know, with the way they were moving the ball in that fourth quarter and the way they had to move down quickly to score to try to tie it up, he was going for the win. And a lot of coaches do that. But thank goodness, Tony, that he did go for those 2 points, or me and David would still be in New Orleans in overtime. And we're glad that we didn't have to go into an overtime game. But Tony, when you look at this whole game overall, you know, the 8 sacks from this offensive line, and I know that they were missing their center, Tyler, but as Jayden said, that's one person you got to move on. But 8 sacks on him. And Coach Quinn talked a little bit in his Monday presser about certain things that Jayden can do also as far as just getting rid of the ball. If the play breaks down, just throw the ball away. And even Jayden talked about that also, that, you know, releasing the ball a little quicker and so forth. So, you know, you look at overall the offensive play and, you know, it is what it is, but they did move the ball quickly in the first half, scoring, you know, the points to get up on the board quickly. But it was the second half, as Coach Quinn talked about, the tale of 2 halves. The first half that you want, and the second half you wish never come again, Tony.
Yeah, but you know, you talking about the tale. You talking about it wasn't too bad, and he's talking about.
I didn't say it wasn't too bad. I said the tale.
He would have had to throw that ball as soon as he called the play to get it off the way they were rushing him. He didn't even have time to see if the real center was under there. I'm going to tell you what, that was one of the worst games, and I'm very disappointed because this team is going forward. And for an offensive line, knowing what's going to transpire if you get to the playoffs. And one thing, David, that they got to tell me what.
And you do forget, Tony, that the Saints have a pretty good defense.
Oh, come on. They got Trey on there. It can't be that great. Come on.
Hey, Trey was playing.
Trey did play well, didn't he?
No, not Trey. You talking about
Chase. I keep calling him Trey. Chase played very well. That's the best game I've seen him play. And last week they said he had like 10 pressures or something. So that's all well and good. but this team is talking about going to the playoffs. David, what do you think about this offensive line at this point? What do they need to do? Because they cannot go. Matter of fact, they can't go in this weekend against a Philadelphia team that's got the number 1 or number 2 defense in there, and they're clicking. They will slaughter them.
Well, they got to run the ball first, Tony. I mean, that was, to me, the reason why you gave up so many sacks is because you couldn't run the ball, and that was disappointing. I think against a front that had not been very good defensively against the run for most of the season, but they weren't able to run the football very effectively. Either that or they got away from it. I'm not quite sure which one it was, but Brian Robinson didn't get enough touches to me. I think when you run the football effectively, you're in 2nd and 2, you're in 3rd and 1. You're not in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10 like they were, having to throw the ball, having to go to 7-step drops, having to go to deeper patterns to pick up the yardage. And their offensive line was not very good in pass pro, but some of that's on Jaden too, Tony. Like he could have gotten rid of the ball a couple of times early. He is we love when Jaden keeps a play alive with his feet and tries to run and tries to gain yards that way. But sometimes you have to live to fight another down. And that's what Quinn was talking about. Just throw the ball away, man. If it's not open, throw the ball away. And that was partly on him. But it's also, look, without Noah Brown, their other receivers besides Terry McLaurin was open all day. But besides McLaurin, nobody else was getting separation consistently. And all those things kind of conspired to, I think, a not great performance by the offensive line. With Biotish hurt, he's so important to their line. And he was out, and it was a last-minute scratch. They didn't have time. They didn't have reps all week. So I'm going to say it was a bad performance. I expect them to be better going forward. Biotish is supposed to be back next week.
Hey, well, David, also, Tony, let me just look. David was talking about running the ball a little bit more, and he's exactly right. Even though they had 137 yards, 66 of those were Jaden Daniels on 11 runs. And then Brian Robinson, even though he had 21 carries, basically just 65 yards. So that probably was some of that run blocking that David was talking about, because they basically run block really well, the offensive line does. But like David said, when you lose your center and he's so instrumental for this game, it's so key in so many ways.
No, I can't buy into that. I'm not buying that. One man, he only got one check.
I just said one man, Tony, but I said
there's 4 or 5 other checks to go out on Monday, and they should be playing ball better than that. I'm going to keep it real. You can't get your quarterback hit like that. And you're right, Dave. He could have made some better decisions. But Solomon, it was my eyes. I can't see, I guess, but it looks as if their defensive line was playing on our offensive line side. Whenever we needed 4th and 3rd and 1, they were already 2 yards into our backfield. What is that about? You mean that one center was going to stop that?
Well, also I'm saying they did have some backups in Pops, but let's reverse this. I want to also thank the New Orleans coach for the first decision he made at the beginning of the game. I don't know if y'all seen the movie Rudy before, but I appreciate him starting Rudy. When he started Rudy, because if he would have started that kid Spencer Rattler, look, thank you, DA. If he would have started Spencer Rattler, it would have been a whole different game, because I remember this kid when he played at Cincinnati in college, and then he actually played for the Falcons. So the fact that he came in and put them points up and started crushing our defense, I was looking at that was the first bad coaching decision he made before he went for the 2 points at the end of the game. But you're right, Pops. They was not. I mean, we gave up 9 sacks. Yeah. You can look at the paperwork to let you know what the offensive line did for us. We gave up 9 sacks, and I feel like DA said Jalen has to do a little. That's one thing we're gonna do. They, as much as they take great things about Michael Jordan, he was good enough to be able to take when he was off. Jalen got to get rid of it and do some better things himself. It wasn't just all on the offensive line like DA said. He got to let that thing go and be able to see certain things too, because some of those sacks he attributed to.
Yeah, but he had to do what he can, man. It was survival out there, Jack. It was just like the Alamo. They were coming from everywhere. It was unreal. I couldn't believe it because I had not seen that in a while. But Donna, when you went in the locker room, what was the mood? Did they feel like they were lucky? Did they feel like they're going forward? What are they looking at? Because one thing that comes to my mind is I can remember a few years ago when they were the Washington Redskins and I was playing. And what's scary about this situation is so many teams in the NFC that can make the playoffs. Everybody just a game or two out. Where on the AFC side, they pretty much know who's going to be in it. So you could win up to 10, 11 games over here and not make it. So what can they do different? I mean, what's the deal?
Tony, the thing about it is the
Donna,
Commanders won.
wait a minute, Donna. I ain't asked you in a while. I didn't think you wanted to make any mistakes, but
I don't make mistakes. But Tony, the key thing is the Commanders won the game. I mean, it was an ugly game and so forth, but they ended up pulling that one out. But this is the thing that we haven't really addressed. They had 9 penalties, Tony, for 80-some yards. So that stalled some of the drives and them moving forward because the game, you think about it, shouldn't have even been that close. I mean, the offense went to sleep in the second half because of those penalties that they kept getting that ended up ending the drives and so forth. So that's one thing they need to clean up facing the Eagles this coming week because they've got a runner in Saquon Barkley. I mean, their offensive line, their offense is great. So you want our offense to be able to be on the field, to keep their offense off. So I think if they cut down on the penalties a little bit more, David had said it also, and running the ball, I mean, that is their bread and butter. That is the thing that has helped this offense move forward. And then you look at the time of possession. I mean, there's no way this Commanders team should have had more points. They had the ball for over 40 minutes to their 19, Tony. But before you go around a little bit more, you asked me what was the mood in the locker room. Well, it was like, glad that we got this game, but they realized that they escaped the bullet. But still, Tony, as they said, a win is a win. But this is the locker room and what they had to say.
Obviously, I was a loss not being able to have Tyler, but Dieter came in and stepped in and did his job, and it wasn't too much to think about. It was like, hey, we still got to go out there and play ball. Can't worry about who's snapping the ball, why Tyler isn't playing. I got a job to go out there and handle. Got to be able to get the ball in my hands and help the O-line out. I mean, I put that on me. It's not all on the O-line. I got to be able to do better back there in the pocket, maneuver in the pocket.
That's what we talk about all the time is winning time moments. And, the defense did a great job of just making the last play to win the game. So you never know when that play is going to come up. But back against the wall, they stepped up and made the plays. I feel like we can help ourselves by just limiting the penalties, making the tough plays. We were moving the ball, I felt like, really well. It's just when you have a penalty there, a missed opportunity there, that's going to halt some drives and get you a little stagnant. But, we still found a way to win, which that's what's most important. But going into a tough week with Philly coming in town, we got to be able to be clicking on all cylinders for 4 quarters. And
on Thursday, you wanted to see how you all come out of the bye week. Yeah. Could you just talk about how you all came out of the bye week?
Yeah, I think we came out with a really good energy today. I felt like we did a great job of just weathering the storm. It wasn't perfect today, offensively or defensively, but we found a way to come out on the side victorious, and I think that's what you got to do at this time of season. You know what I mean? Try to limit as many negative plays as possible and find out a way to get the win.
Penalties was a big thing. We had De'Ami made a great catch and a couple other things, and then we took some shots downfield that weren't completed, which you got to do that sometimes, and ultimately just weren't able to get drive started in that sense.
Talk about today and you all being able to pull out this win.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't the greatest game, obviously, but, any win is a good win, especially in this league, especially down the stretch, so we'll definitely take it. Some things that we need to clean up, obviously, but, just me personally, individually, man, it just felt good to get back out there. I'm just glad to, get the opportunity to play today.
You all came out hot to start the game, but kind of like went flat a little bit. Talk about what happened there.
Yeah, I think we just got to finish drives, like you said, we came out hot, and in the second half we had some opportunities. I think we stalled a lot just because of we had some penalties that got us out of field goal range or made it a long field goal. But I think we have to capitalize on those drives, and instead of getting 3, we need to get 6 going forward.
Well, I tell you what, you take a look at this and they're right, and you look at those drives, you look at the different things, and what I have to look at, we only have a minute left, so I asked this question on the other side of the commercial. But what does this team needs to do to get ready? If you remember one thing, what was said and transpiring right now, they got 3 games left. all against individuals, except for Dallas, who think they still have opportunity. They have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So what they have to do is decipher and look at this film and really be truthful with themselves and find out what happened. When we come back, we'll take a look at a defense that they played pretty well. They're basic stuff. They let some good stuff get away. Now, you may say we're being a little bit difficult now, but when you're trying to get to the Super Bowl, you have to be difficult with somebody else. So let me go ahead and jump on my wife and see if she's doing right, and we'll be back in a moment.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya.
They're great.
Crystal City Sports Pub, located in the heart of National Landing, is ranked one of the top 20 sports bars in the country. We are open 365 days a year. Crystal City Sports Pub, with its laid-back atmosphere, is the place to be. We offer 3 levels, over 100 TVs, an 18-foot video wall, pool tables, 3 full bars featuring 11 beers on tap, an extensive menu, and super friendly staff. We offer on- and off-site catering and ample space to host private parties and gatherings. Come experience Crystal City Sports Pub. It is the place to be.
Right now.
Y'all can stop sending the police to the doors. I'm not jumping on my wife physically. I'm jumping on her mentally. Okay, we'll get back with that. I hear somebody beating on my door out there. But with that being said, let's take a look at this defense. What can they do? What's happening with them? Are they good? Now, when you take a look, they got a couple of players that's really playing well. I'm still a little bit concerned with that defensive backfield. And there's one gentleman there that he's going to have to pull this game together. Next year, he'll be sitting next to me here. And so, Donna, tell me what you feel. Well, Dave, you tell me what you see with this team. And let's go offense or defense. What will they have to improve to get into the playoffs? And then once they're in the playoffs, to stay?
Well, if you want to talk about the defense, I thought they played okay.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, in the first half they were very good, but
yeah, they were.
But as was mentioned, the quarterback for New Orleans was.
He was Rudy, right? Am I right?
Yeah, it wasn't good. But then in the second half, when Rattler came in, and Rattler pushes the ball downfield. Now sometimes he had a couple of completions that frankly should have been picked off. I think Frankie Louvu dropped an interception that would have ended a drive. They had hands to the face penalty on 3rd and 10 while they're getting a sack, which negated the sack and gave Saints first down, led to a field goal. So they were too rough in the passer calls. I think both of them were kind of dubious, but they were called. It wasn't the greatest officiating crew ever either. So they left some things out on the field too, defensively. I thought they were okay. They got to be better if they're going to have any chance to beat the Eagles. We understand that. We all understand how good the Eagles are. So all 3 phases have got to be a lot better if they're going to have any chance to be in that game.
Yeah. Hey, David, and also adding to that, you said, Tony, what stands out? You act like you don't like me to talk about the defense because I'm for real with that, Tony.
You be dogging them every time you get a chance.
Like David said, they were okay, but okay ain't going to get you going. You said teams got to play good if they're trying to get into the Super Bowl. we're talking about a defense that has to play way better, Tony, than they did against the Saints, because you're facing an Eagles team that is much better in every category. But one good thing about this defense that I saw in this game is they only gave up 69 yards rushing to a good runner in Alvin Kamara, but he ended up getting hurt later on. And then Mikey Sanders-Steele, to me, is just playing lights out ball. I mean, to be a rookie and everything, he had a pick that helped them set them up score wise. So, I mean, it was some good areas that you can look at that this defense is doing well. And, I saw John Allen at the game for the last couple of weeks or so. I think he's trying to come back, hoping to, get back before the playoffs and so forth. And a lot of people will be saying what, but I think that everybody that you can get back in this lineup is going to be a win-win for you, because of just, bodies that's beat up and everything. And so John Allen would be able to help this team if he comes back, an extra body on that line. But I think overall this team has played well. But Tony, you asked me again, what does the players have to say? Well, let's go into the locker room to hear what the defensive side of the ball had to say.
But just talk about this win today.
Oh, man, it's amazing. On the road, and, we got it done. It wasn't pretty, but, we fought all the way to the clock say 0-0-0. So, that's big anytime.
Did you take a breath at the end? It's like, whew.
Yeah, I think everybody in the stadium took a deep breath, but, shout out to Noah and, the guys that were on that play, at that pylon, and were able to, get that win for us, and, especially in the road.
Come off the bye week. How huge is this, being able to get this win, and then you got Philly next week?
It's huge, and we got Philly coming in the divisional game. They had us the first time, and, it was definitely, I still, had that sour taste of, we should have had that last one. But, they're coming in and, coming into our house, and, we've been doing good at home games and protecting our home field. So, we just got to rally up the boys. Everybody got to get healthy. Chin, Zach, and, Persa, those guys, and, make sure everybody come back ready.
Good. It's the best feeling, you know what I'm saying? But it's on to the next now. This in the past, we won, but, it's on to the next, to me.
What was the game like for you?
Just out there. Just out there being happy to be out there, you know what I'm saying? I didn't really get too much action, but, just to be out there, man, it's a great feeling, though.
I don't think he got targeted at all this game. So, really just giving us that caliber type of player on the field with us definitely improves the game. No game is ever going to be perfect, no matter, how much you practice, you work on stuff. But they get paid too, so really just being able to learn from it, improve, and just keep moving forward.
Do you take a breath at the end of this game to say, whew, we pulled this one out, and just talk about this win coming out of the bye week?
Yeah, man, it's tough. These games always come down to the last second, so I'm just glad we were able to finish.
Marshawn Lattimore, Tony, didn't even get no work because they were afraid to go inside. But guess what? He is so instrumental going down the stretch to have on this team right now.
How were they able to get him as easy as they did?
I'm gonna let David jump in there.
Well, I mean, Marshawn didn't want to be in New Orleans anymore. I think that was obvious. They weren't really going anywhere. And I think that's a credit to Adam Peters in the front office to jump in and beat out both Kansas City and Baltimore, who were trying to get Marshawn Lattimore. That tells you how good this guy is. The caliber of teams that were going after him, and for Washington to be able to get in front of all those guys and get this guy. Look, he took half the field away. Now it's not going to be that way next week. Philly going to go at him because they have AJ Brown and they have Smith. They've got great wide receivers, so they're going to take their shots. So he'll get more work next week. But having him on the field really will help this team. It's like getting a first-round pick for the last 4 games of the season. Like, you just don't usually get this, in the NFL this late in the season. A player of his caliber just suddenly starts playing for you the last 4 games. So it's a big potential benefit for Washington down the stretch.
Well, I tell you what, now, Solomon, I want to ask you this. That's one thing they finally did make mention during the game, that it had been a rift between Brown and the quarterback, and that was part of the Eagles' problems. Have you heard anything else on that?
Ashley Brown said at the end of the game after that win, we're fine. So that's what we heard, and it was a W. I just want to get back to us again. I'm going to just be honest. We did play all right, but I'm going to just say it like this. If we tackle any way the way we just tackled this past game, it's going to get ugly with Saquon Barkley. What I mean by that is I was watching people like Deron Payne. Now, our linebackers stay intact, but our line is getting thrown off by one shake. And I guess that's hard for me, being that I am a son of a former defensive line, that I watch him sack quarterbacks, but I've also watched him damage running backs. So it's just kind of disturbing when I'm just seeing people like Deron Payne get thrown around. It kind of reminds me of this guy that I played with my father in New England called Too Strong. He could lift a whole gym up and do everything. And I would ask Daddy, why isn't he playing? Then I would go to practice. He would miss tackles. He couldn't get to the quarterback. He was just too strong in the gym. And I'm just getting concerned with our line because they just missed too many first tackles instead of getting the man down right away. Even with them last sacks, when they did sack Rudy basically fell into their arms. It wasn't like they had to struggle, and a couple of them struggled to get them down. So I would like our tackling to shore up for us to go to the next level, because if we tackle like this next week, Pop, it's over with.
Yeah, and they really can't afford to lose any of those games. And mentioning Too Strong, that brings back a blast from the past. And I tell you what, Solomon was true. This guy, he's 6'6". He weighed about 290. He ran about a 4.640, and he bench pressed 610 pounds. One day I saw him taking what I was ending up with, about 400 pounds, and he did that 10 times. But that doesn't make the player, and that's what we have to realize with that. When you look at this Philadelphia team, they got players at their position, Donna, and that's what's scary about them as well.
You know, I think David just hit on it when he mentioned as far as the wide receiver group that they've got to worry about: Smith, A.J. Brown. They've got Saquon Barkley, who they use out of the backfield, and we know what he's done in their running game. And then Hurts is playing well. So you look at this Philadelphia team that just took Pittsburgh to the cleaners, the way that they dominated them. And then, you know, the Commanders should have beat both of those teams the first time around. But as Solomon said, you have to clean up a lot of the things right now on that defensive side of the ball, as far as being able to stuff that run, your gap control, and all of those things that's going to be key this coming week. And then, you know, Jeremy Chin, not for sure. He's in the concussion protocol. So they're hoping that he would be able to be back. I think Percy Butler, if I'm not mistaken, may be out also, and hoping to get those bodies back, which is key for that secondary. So it's a lot of things that they'll work on this week, because they know that Philadelphia is not a game that they can go in and play sloppy ball. Even on the offensive side of the ball for this Commanders team, they have to play solid themselves, because Philadelphia's front of their defense is pretty solid. But this Commanders team has proven that they can go toe-to-toe with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the question is, will they be able, even being at home, to put all the pieces together to pull this out this coming week? Key. This is a huge game, Tony.
What is the biggest key piece to you?
What was that again?
What is the biggest thing they need to do this week to you? To me, is running the ball and controlling the clock. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that basically if you can just keep their offense off the field and everything, and if you can move the chains on offense, like you just said, I mean, it's all starts with that running game. But, you know, I think the offensive line play that we talked about earlier doing this, they've got to be able to pass block and run block for you know, on this offensive side of the ball. And I think that's key on that side. And you know, on the other side, stopping the run. What are your thoughts, David?
Well, look, like I said, Philly is, look, they're probably the best team in the NFC right now. I mean, Detroit's really banged up right now. So they got a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the football. They're not as good as they were at the beginning of the season. Philly is really peaking at the right time, doing a great job. You got to block Carter and Davis. Those are two just mammoth guys on the defensive line. That's an all-day assignment. You have to control the ball. You can't. What happened the last game is that Saquon Barkley wore him down. So over 4 quarters of allowing him to be able to pound the ball over and over again, he broke through in the late 3rd quarter and 4th quarter and just took the game over. So the only way you can negate that is to be ahead by a lot of points and make Jalen Hurts have to throw the ball a lot and take Saquon Barkley out of the game. If this is a 2-point game or 1-score game, Philly's going to keep running the ball because their MO is we're going to hit you with Saquon Barkley until you crack. Mm-hmm. And most of the time this season, defenses have cracked. And so the Commanders have got to get ahead. They got to score early. They got to turn the Eagles over a couple of times. But again, it's got to be elite level play in all 3 phases. That means the kicker's got to be on point. Whoever it is, you got to make field goals. You can't miss field goals. The kickoffs were very short yesterday, allowed the Saints to get some really good returns. So special teams is a part of this too. So they've got to play a complete game to have a chance. The Eagles are really rolling right now. They're going to want to try to clinch the division, clinch the number 1 seed, and get a week off before the second round of the playoffs. So they have motivation to win this game, and the Commanders' motivation is simple, as you mentioned, Tony. They're in the playoff race right now, and there's a lot of teams behind them that could catch them with one bad week.
And the only thing that worries me is they don't have any margin for error. Because these 3 teams, except for Dallas, as I said, are teams that also feel like they should be in the playoffs. So therefore, they have no margin, and so it's going to take the whole team. Yes, we've been getting good play out of the special teams lately, but we need something special out of them. And speaking of special, my wife is hurt, and I need to come back and tell you guys again. Been with her for 50 years, never jumped on her yet, even though she don't know her football. I mean, she knows her football a little bit, and I don't jump on them either. You know what? I saw them do that on The View the other day, and I guess we better always fact check everything we say. So with that being said, when we come back, I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to do to Donna Hopkins because she's always wrong? I don't know.
Nothing, because I'm not wrong.
We'll be back in a moment.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love. Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya.
They're great.
Next! You see me a little bit excited now because whenever you're talking game, you talk about special teams, and each player, and 9 times out of 10, no matter your first round draft choice or a free agent, you have to do your times on the special team. And you become part of that unit. And that unit becomes part of a unit once you've been to a Super Bowl or something that you expect them to do well. And one thing about our unit, I see improvement on them each week, guys. And I don't know, Donna, you've talked to them as well. What do they feel they need to do? Do they need to break more off? Do they need to take more chances or what?
Well, Tony, all I have to say is Jamison Crowder is back. So that's a plus for this special teams unit. I mean, they can afford to do all that, but I don't think it's the return game or any of those things. It's the kicking games, Tony, that they got to get right. Yeah, because I think that that's an area that, we don't know from week to week who's going to be the kicker because they've been trying to navigate through injuries right there. But this stage of the season, kicking is so key right now. And that's not the Commander's strong suit right now.
Well, what would you think about Dave when he made that call? Did you think you would make that, or would you have punted and made them go to length of the field, or would you have tried for the 51-yard field goal?
No, I would have punted, Tony, just because even if you kick the ball into the end zone, they got to go 80 yards to score, right? You're taking the chance, and it wound up not working, that they get the ball at the 44-yard line, which is just giving them half the field basically. The snap was not good, so I'm not putting it all on the kicker. I mean, the snap wasn't good; it was low. But that being said, they, as you all have mentioned, kicking, and especially if you consider, chances are, unless you're playing in Detroit, you're going to be playing outdoors in the playoffs. So you're going to be at Philly, you're going to be at Tampa, you're going to be at Seattle or LA, in winter when the winds are blowing, and you don't, it's a different animal, and you've got to be able to make consistently 45 and in. Like, you got to have those. You can't just say, well, we're going to miss 2 or 3 of those. No, those are important field goals. If he makes that field goal, the game's over, right?
Exactly.
He didn't make it,
right.
and that gave them a chance to win the game at the end. So you got to have those kicks.
It didn't really look that good when he did it, but at the same time, you're exactly right on that. And Donna, speaking of field goals, I understand that the people in our restaurant challenge or our challenge has been hitting home runs.
Yeah, Tony, but before I go there, Solomon has some intel on the kicking game a little bit too.
I know he would go.
Hold on, thank you, sharpshooter, for now. That's the basketball part. I hate to say it, Dad. You do show defensive end stuff. She just fed it to her big man so I could score in the paint. That's basketball analogy. Thank you, sharpshooter. Now,
always basketball love.
My thing is this, with the kicker we just signed, and that's the thing I was just asking a couple of my people, when are we going to be able to get our kickers back, like far as Siebert and Gonzalez? Far as who we just signed, he was with the Giants, and we beat the Giants twice, and he was missing kicks for the Giants. So why would we try to, and that's one thing. I have a person that works in my job, won't say their name, but he doesn't even call them the Giants no more. He calls them the midgets. So the kicker the midgets just signed, we beat them twice, and we got him now. So I knew he was going to miss those kicks. I'm going to be honest, because he missed them when we played against him. So that's what I was trying to figure out. So my biggest thing is, I need to see what's going on with the health of Siebert, our number one kicker. He would have made that 51-yard. And even Gonzalez, his backup, that they both were hurt. So I know this has been a terrible year for all kickers, including the guy up the street in Baltimore. Yeah. But I just need to see what's going on with the health of those two people, because we were doing pretty good with kicks up until they both got hurt.
Yeah, and they got major injuries too. I mean, nothing that they can just roll back, but hopefully, you may have one of them in the next week or so, because it's going to come down. But speaking of that, as far as taking a hit this week, it got real close in the picks for our sports challenge. And let me just get started with this, because the Glory Days up until this point was leading the pack by a couple of games, but they had some miscues this week, just like some of the NFL teams. And now they're tied at 17-14 with Crystal City Restaurant. So this week, the Glory Days are taking the Packers, and they have a chance to move up all of these teams this week, because we have 2 Monday night games, and Monday night they're picking the Vikings and also the Falcons. The Glory Days, you know what? A tough week for you all, but Crystal City made some ground on you all. This week on Sunday, they're picking the Seahawks. I mean, that's going to be an interesting game between the Packers and the Seahawks. It could go either way, but I think the Packers may have this one. And then Monday night, they got the Vikings and the Falcons. And so moving right along with that, those are our 2 top leaders right now. But the next guys are right neck and neck too, as far as Crystal City Pub at 15-16, Kellogg's at 15-16 also. This week, the Crystal City Pub over there with Jim, They're picking the Seahawks on Sunday, Monday, the Vikings and the Falcons. And then Kellogg's, they're picking the Packers. So that could change up that little lead right there between whoever's going to win between those two games, because Kellogg's is still picking the Vikings on Monday night and the Falcons. And still familiar, you know what? You better start picking right, because you're losing ground on all these other teams. But they're picking the Packers this week on Sunday. And then Monday night, the Vikings and the Falcons. So, Tony, we got some hot races going right there with the Sports Challenge.
You know what's intriguing about these races? Even though some of them have already clinched playoff positions, they still have to play to try to, because it's still an opportunity to win a division or get in better position in the playoff. So every game now, you speak of the three that Washington are playing. Atlanta, they're on the tightrope right now. They're in big time trouble. Dallas, they are the kind of individuals that they think that they're better than what they are. And last but not least, you look at the Eagles, they are what we think they are. So right now, this team don't need to focus on all three. They need to focus on this one. Now, one good thing that we have, and anybody, and I'd like you to chime in on this, Dave, kind of have found out that you have teams sometimes where one has a much better record, but the matchups are so good, there's always a good game. And it seems though Washington gives the Eagles a tough game. You look at the last 2 years, they've been a little trouble for the Eagles. What do you think? Can they muster up that kind of energy this year?
Yeah, I think so, Tony. I mean, I think you're right. They've been competitive the last couple games. They beat Philly up there a couple of years ago. So it was a Thursday night game, if I remember correctly. So they've won, they've been very competitive with the Eagles the last couple of games. I think with the Eagles, it comes down to you have got to control both lines of scrimmage to the extent that you can. And it's very difficult because the Eagles offensive line, even though they've had a couple of retirements, it's still a really good offensive line. I mentioned a defensive line. And that's where they get down, is with their lines of scrimmage. They control both lines of scrimmage, and they make it very difficult for you to get ahead because they can run with Barkley, and then defensively they really get after you. They shut down the run, and then they put pressure on you, and they make plays in the secondary. So you have to eliminate those advantages they have in the line of scrimmage. And it's not easy, and it's not going to be easy for Washington, even if they get Biotish back for Sunday. And that'll help some because he's really important to Washington's run game. He does some things in terms of pulling that most centers can't do. But they have to be able to block those guys. They have got to be able to run the ball effectively with Brian Robinson. You can't depend on Jaden Daniels making plays with his legs over 4 quarters. You just can't do it. It's not against a good defense. So you have to be able to run the ball with your best running back and keep their best running back on the sidelines. That's the best defense against Saquon Barkley, is keeping him on the sideline by controlling the ball and controlling the time of possession.
So we're back to grade one.
Yeah.
Donna?
Yeah, David mentioned earlier on about, other teams, and you did too, Tony, about how important it is for this Commanders team with so many other teams right on their heel trying to get into the playoffs. Because right now you got Seattle at 8-6, you got the Cardinals at 7-7, the Falcons at 6-7, still trying to get in it. And then the 49ers at the edge, they're trying to get in it at 6-8. Cowboys, I can't even believe we even mentioning their names, but they could possibly get in at 6-8. And then the Saints at 5-9, but the Commanders, with all these teams breathing down their neck, they have to take care of business, themselves, and not worry about anybody else.
Well, we're gonna have to take a break right now, but when I come back, I'm gonna say this before I go. You mentioned a lot of names there, but fans, boys and girls, you have to start looking at those Los Angeles Rams. They're back. We'll be back in a moment.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya.
They're great.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
Hey guys, I'm back again. And today you're going to see me take a young guy through a workout that I love called Tabata. Tabata, we're going to do 4 things in Tabata. And the first one we're going to do is called Tabata Straight. And when we do Tabata Straight, Tabata is, first of all, is 8 things 20 times. So I'm going to go 8 reps, 20, 10 on, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. We're going to do that 8 times, which will be 4 minutes per station. Right now, I'm setting him up on the treadmill. His first one, we got 8 stations, and the first one is treadmill. He's gonna run 8 times at 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. I love this workout. This is the one I always do pretty much every other day. And he's gonna run at the speed, what's that incline? I'm gonna put him at 8, and the speed gonna be probably about 9, 5, 10. Go. Get those toes up. I gotta hear it. Come on. Back it down if you need to. I know. Come on, up, pop, 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 pop. Come on, keep it up. You got 3 more after this. Come on. Up, 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 up. Relax. Learn to breathe in deep. Focus on that for the last 10 seconds. Get that oxygen.
Well, another great piece from Ricky Irvins trying to get us whipped into shape before this holidays come, trying to teach us great lessons. He had a running workout this time, Tony. But Tony, let's go around the NFL, talk about what's happening there. And let's start, Tony, right with the Steelers at the Ravens this week. I'm going to let all of you all chime in this one because the Steelers had the Ravens number, but a Derrick Henry that hasn't scored, I think, in the last 3 games. This is a big game because right now Pittsburgh is in the lead, just lost to the Eagles, but the Ravens are a couple of games behind. Tony, starting with you first, how do you see this game shaping out?
Yeah, I tell you what, when you look at it, when I think of the Ravens, I think of nevermore. And, you know, I went for them so much in the beginning because I thought that they were pat, but I see that they have some kind of understanding. They trying to make sure they keep everyone happy, and they ain't gonna let Derrick run right away. But with a force like that, you always pick your 2 quarters that you're gonna let him put it on people. And usually, to me, it's the first and the fourth. For the separated in the first, you trying to get the attitude together against them, and in the fourth, you letting them know we're still coming at them. They seem to though that they want to let the quarterback do a lot of running first, and they're doing wrong. I look at them to win this game, but they're not the team I thought they were.
Hey, David, what are your thoughts on this game?
I would just say Mike Tomlin seems to have Baltimore's number. He seems to know how to beat Baltimore. I mean, I don't know how many games in a row they've beaten them, but they have put it on him a few times, and he seems to have the formula to slow down Lamar and make enough plays to win the game. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh again until Baltimore shows me they can beat them because they haven't been able to. And even though Pittsburgh lost to the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles are the hottest team in the league right now. I mean, they've won, 11 straight games. So I'm not going to hold that against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been playing pretty good. Now, you got to find out about Watt and his ankle and what's going on with that. Is that a game? Is that something where he can just tape it up and play? Or is it one of those high ankle sprains that's going to keep him out for a while? And I don't know the answer to that right now. So, but Watt's health is obviously a big part of Pittsburgh's defense.
Oh, major part. Without him, their pass rush disappears.
Yeah.
Hey, Solomon, what's your take?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go in with my B-Law squad, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Just because I'm like Pops, I'm not gonna get fooled by the Ravens again. They messed up my parlay one week playing with the Joker. So I'm gonna just go out to take. I feel like also, like DA said, Coach, we sleep on Coach Tomlin, but I don't, because just like we don't sleep on coaches like Popovich for the Spurs, this guy's been there for 18 years. So at the end of the day, I don't know a lot of coaches that's staying that long and doing that well. So I just have faith that he's a great coach, and that's why he's still here. So I got the black and yellow going, beating the Ravens.
Well,
and did you let me say this quickly, Donna? I'm more impressed with them, and it began last year, that they're winning, and they haven't really had that key quarterback, which they may have now, but they're winning with their defense and with their organization. They're running the ball. They're doing everything that they can right. They don't have no big outstanding guys except what they did on defense, but now he's hurt. So this is a team that they made up of, you may call regular Joes, but they get the job done.
Hey, Tony, you did pick the Ravens in the picks, but I'm not going to tell anybody that. But moving on, let's talk about, I'm just going to mention Buffalo. Let me just tell, Josh Allen is playing lights out ball. If you look at his numbers, 700 and some yards, you look at the touchdowns he's had the last 2 weeks and everything, this guy's playing great ball. But I'm not going to talk much about him, because we're going to go on and talk about the Vikings at 11-2, playing the Seahawks at 8-6, trying to get into the playoffs. David, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this game playing out?
I mean, I would give Seattle a chance, but if Geno's hurt, if he's not going to be able to play, my man Sam Howell was rough.
Hello.
That was rough. So, I think the Vikings will win that game. I think the Vikings are playing really good football right now.
And Tony, I'm going to go to you with this game as far as the Texans playing at the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain again. How do you see that game? I mean, they already clinched their division and everything, but the Texans, who are played well at the Chiefs, how do you see that playing out?
I know when I picked it with you, I picked it the other way, but the Texans are going to beat the Chiefs. I just went on with it. The Texans are going to beat the Chiefs. Don't read my lips. The Texans are going to beat them. Okay?
And Solomon, I'm going to leave this last one quickly to you. You got the Broncos at 9-5 playing the Chargers, who got beat up this past week, at 8-6. How do you see that one playing out?
I'm gonna have to go with the Mile Highs. They rolling right now. They got a strong quarterback, and they just linking as a team. So I'm gonna have to go against them. I'm gonna go on and take the Broncos with that.
But Tony, you got to take us to a commercial break so that you can bring us back to talk about how I'm beating everybody in the picks.
Oh, yeah, that's all you wanted. That's all right. We're not gonna bring you back. The rest of us will be back in a minute, and Donna will be back next week.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya.
They're great.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
One more thing.
As we were going out, you heard Donna keep talking about these picks, but I guess when you haven't led in 25 years, you do get excited about
Not
that.
the truth.
But if you look at it, she's leading right now. Alex and I second. And no.
Well, not
we'll
Alex,
see how it
you and Gary. You and Gary.
Uh-oh, Alex, I tried to pull you in with me, man. But speaking of pulling in, and we started looking at these teams, we talked a lot about them. We said exactly what the Eagles could do and what we think Washington can do. But one thing about it, we can talk it, but they got to play it. If they go out on the field this weekend and they play the way they should have an opportunity. What they have to realize, this is do or die right now. Even as bad as Dallas is, if any of those teams end up beating them, it takes them out. So if they do that, they will not be like us because they will be saying goodbye. But we don't do that. We say in the minute.